Hey there guys, welcome back to yet another installment of the ever-growing travel trailer project series. Today's lock build has been something that I've been thinking about during the entire course of this trailer build, but more so recently as I've gotten closer to finishing the trailer with all of the hundreds if not thousands of hours that I've invested into this project. I really wanted to secure it the best that I can when we're at a campground or boondocking in the forest and we decide to take a drive and leave the trailer. So today I'm going to show you how I built that lock, and I also do want to give a huge thank you to War-Lok locks. They supplied the puck locks that I'm going to be using in this build. I actually reached out to them a few weeks ago after purchasing the padlock that is on the rear tire with the P-Wag chain. I was so impressed by the lock and I asked them for a discount, and they said they would be happy to send a couple locks out. So I just want to let you know that. So anyway, let's get to the build and then I will talk about all the usual stuff after that. Alright, so here's my game plan for building this lock. I'm starting out with a piece of 4" by 4" by 1/4" thick steel tubing, and I'm going to be cutting it in half lengthwise. Once that's almost cut in half, I'm then going to be welding this hinge onto the end of that tubing so it can open and close around my trailer coupler. I'm also going to be welding a 2" ball on the inside of this that will attach to the trailer coupler so that this housing can't be pulled off of it. Once that's all assembled, I'm then going to focus on these lock hasps that War-Lok sent me, and I'm going to be removing all of the excess metal around the round portion. Once that's done, I'm then going to weld this on right over the seam of where the two halves meet in the middle, and then they'll be secured with one of the War-Lok puck locks. And that's pretty much it. So let me get to cutting and we'll see how this thing develops. The first step I'm taking in this build is to cut the excess metal off of these lock hasps. I'm using a plasma cutter for this as it's probably the easiest and quickest way to do it, but if you wait just a few seconds, I'll show you also that you can do it just with an angle grinder and a cutoff wheel. After I got the lock hasps cut and sanded, I then placed them on the tubing to find out where my seam would need to go. Once I had that all marked out, I then started cutting with my angle grinder in several very shallow passes. That way I wouldn't heat up the metal too much and cause any warpage. Once I had a plan of where I wanted everything to go, I then clamped the two halves together and placed the hinge. After I had it lined up, I then added a few tack welds and just ensured that it functioned right, and then I finished off with full welds. And after quite a bit of blending to pretty up the ends of the lock housing, I then was able to add the lock hasps on each side of the lock housing, and it was pretty much a functional lock ready to be tested at this point. Alright, so at this point the lock is 100% functional. You just saw me secure it to the coupler, and it will totally work and serve its purpose just in the state that it is. But there's just a couple more things I want to do to really finish it out. Number one, this ball is just simply bolted through the bottom of the lock, so I want to cut that off and have this ball welded into place so it's permanent. And then on the top of the lock, I want to add a piece of steel for a couple of different reasons. This is just a piece of 2" by 2" 1/4" angle that I cut on a diagonal and then welded in some pieces of scrap steel to kind of give it a cool pyramid look. So I think it looks cool, but it's also going to serve the purpose of adding some additional steel to somebody who wants to use an angle grinder to try to cut through there to be able to flip this open and try to cycle the coupler mechanism. Not that that will totally work, because I don't think this will move enough for them to be able to slide it out. But anyway, it's just something I want to add. Alright, now that you saw everything coming together and how I built the lock, now I am going to get on to the questions that I think folks will have, and then I'll talk about what's to come next in the trailer build. So the first question I think people will have is specifically in regard to the puck locks. How secure are they, and what kind of research did I do before selecting them? Well, I actually did quite a bit of research, and I watched quite a few YouTube videos from a guy named the Lock Picking Lawyer. He has a channel where he picks probably hundreds if not thousands of locks, and I quickly realized that pretty much any lock can be defeated. It's just a matter of time and dependent on the skill level of the person trying to pick it or break it or do whatever to open the lock. But one of the things that I saw on his channel is he did pick one of the War-Lok locks, but instead of using the normal like tensioner bar and like a raking tool that he used on a lot of the lower level locks, the War-Lok lock, he had to use a specialty tool that he referred to as like a tubular tensioner, and that's probably wrong, but it did take him a little bit to defeat the lock. And I figured he is definitely a higher skill level, and that was the only video that I could even find on the War-Lok locks being picked. So it really led to me having a bit more confidence in that versus probably about 40 other similar style locks that he picked anywhere from like 30 seconds to a minute. So anyway, that's kind of how I selected them. I would definitely recommend giving his channel a look. It's very interesting to see how quickly most locks can be defeated. The next question I think some people might have is whether I plan on selling these locks and how I came up with this design. No, I don't plan on selling these locks. It's just too much welding and fabrication work to make it worth my time. Maybe if somebody wanted to pay me $1,000, I might consider making them a custom lock. But then in that case, I would probably feel guilty because I don't think it would be a good value for them. As for the plans to this lock, I took inspiration from two commercially available locks out there right now. One is from Proven Industries and the other is Fort Knox Locks. They both use the lock hasp and puck lock to secure their locks, and I thought it was a great idea. So, my design is not 100% out of thin air. I saw their locks and I thought it was really good, and I figured I would just put my own flair on it. But anyway, that's where I got some of the inspiration for it. The rest of it's just me tinkering, doing the little thing on the top. But if somebody was looking for a lock, I would definitely recommend both of those companies, as their locks look really bomb-proof. Now, what about the hinge? I know somebody is going to look at that hinge and say, that's the weak point, and all you have to do is cut through the hinge and you can simply slide that thing off. Well, that's not true. You could cut the hinge off. As a matter of fact, you could cut the whole front section off, and it would still not slide off because it's secured with the ball that goes up into the coupler. And unless you take enough steel off or pry it open enough to get your hand or something in there to work the mechanism, you can't simply pull it off because it's being held in place by the lock hasps on the back side of it. But anyway, I know it's going to be a question that people will ask, and I just figured I would try to address it here. And the other question that I'm pretty confident will be asked is about the safety chains. Since my lock has no way to secure the chains, couldn't a thief simply use the chains to tow the trailer away? Well, yes, they could, but my answer to that is I simply remove them. They are attached with threaded links that are DOT approved, so I simply take the chains away and they would have to bring their own chains. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it for all the questions I could think of. I'm sure there's something I didn't cover, and if that's the case, definitely put it down below and I will try to answer it the best I can. As for the most obvious question, is all of this way overkill? It most definitely is, but I have put quite a bit of time and effort into this trailer to not secure it in some way. Does all of this make the trailer unstealable? Absolutely not. If somebody really wants it, they can definitely defeat all of the things that I've put in place, but it will definitely take them a bit of time and a bit of noise depending on how they're trying to defeat the security measures that I put in place, and that all allows more opportunity for a passerby to see them doing something, a police officer, or maybe me to come up behind them and give them a nice warm welcoming. So you get what I'm saying. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. As for the next video in this series, it will probably be the 12-volt solar setup, and that will be the final video before I take this camping. I'll still probably be working on this, doing various upgrades throughout the next year or so, but at least it will be campable after the next video. So as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.